do you do to alleviate traffic and parking issues in Hoboken?
Over the last 9 years, we've seen traffic build up in Hoboken, not because of overdevelopment, rather because the current administration, Ravi Bala, Jen Giattino, and Anthony Romano, have not solved the solution, have found the solution from the root cause. All three of them supported the Observer Highway that we have today, and that's very important. The second thing is the master plan in 2004 recommended rerouting Patterson Plank Road from Jersey City Heights to downtown Jersey City. This administration and everybody that you see elected except for me has ignored those recommendations and instead fought for pet projects like that Observer Highway. Further, Councilman Bala and Mayor Zimmer at the time 9 years ago ran on retiming the light rail stop in the southwest. That has never been accomplished, and these are the inefficiencies that we need to acknowledge in this election and make sure that we have a mayor that's going to get down to business and solve these from the root cause. Further, the Southwest, the redevelopment plan that has been pushed forth by Councilman Bala and Giattino is not adequate. We are proposing high light on the light rail in a place that we need to have transportation infrastructure. I own a car, I'm a cyclist, and I commute to the city every day. I'm frustrated more than anybody in terms of the inadequacies that we have with our infrastructure, and I believe that we need to acknowledge the failures of the past and look towards a more productive future in which everybody is actually working together and investing county resources and our municipal tax dollars towards infrastructure, repaving our streets, fixing potholes, and making sure that we don't disregard car owners and motorists in favor of pedestrians and cyclists. So at the end of the day, we are a true multimodal society, and we need to be pushing for infrastructure improvements that incentivize all modes of transportation.
Well, first and foremost, a reconfiguration of Observer Highway and as well as 14th and Willow, especially with Trader Joe's not being there, I feel is a necessity. This was done not with the county's blessing, but was done with the federal government money from the DOT and the Hoboken Mayor and City Council. I feel it's been a disaster and a failure. I'm showed dots by an engineer on a board, which is all theory, but in practice it doesn't work. Jackson Street needs to be opened up again to the way it was, 3 lanes. So you have it going left up Patterson Plank Road, straight on Jackson, and right on Patterson Avenue. With regards to the suggestion by the previous speaker, we were trying to, but there's a frustration. You cannot have no negotiations going on with a company that has the rights to the area we'd like to get that street, so you can bypass coming down from Patterson Plank Road straight into Jersey City. So this administration has not dealt in good faith with that company. All of the council members, as a matter of fact, I don't see anyone doing it. The next step would be, with regards to traffic, you have to have a sound ability, and I feel that experience as a traffic commander. I feel that for being involved during 911 when there was a massive evacuation from New York coming through Hoboken, that you need Observer Highway to be flowing. And there's certain things that need to be done with regards to the parking of vehicles on Observer Highway. With regards to traffic in general, Washington Street is a mess. And I think part of the reason is that there has never been to see with these bulb outs experimentally if they work. When you hear that the fire department and the Jersey Transit do not want them, and yet they've been falling on deaf ears while the council has gone along and not asked for a moratorium. I think that's important. Also, with regard to the parking restrictions, we need to build more garages, and hopefully we have to think outside the box when you deal with developers that we can construct new garages.
First thing I would do, and it's an absolute must, is that I would remove, and no hard feelings, I would remove the bike lanes from Observer Highway. It's a mess. I'm a car driver as well, and as a business owner, I constantly go to Secaucus to go to Restaurant Depot. Coming back that way and trying to get back into the city is a mess. Going to, my husband goes to Hackensack to his law firm. Going out to get out of here in the city in the morning, it's a mess. That's one thing. I would also try to implement and speak with some engineers and see, New York City is doing a very wonderful, they've just turned their architectural drawings. It's a bike lane / walkway, which starts from one part of the city and it's wrapping around the entire city of New York. Wonderful. Wouldn't it be wonderful to have just a bike lane and / walk lane that's going around the entire city? Hops. Let's increase the hops. So those hops, not just picking up the elderly, and we need from 8 o'clock till 10 o'clock, and coming home from 7 o'clock till 9 o'clock. Hops need to be increased. So I don't, and everyone we know doesn't drop their loved ones to the train station in the morning. It's congested. It's a mess. That's another thing I would do. These bump outs, they're absolutely ridiculous. I'm positive. I know that they say they're going to work. I don't think so. I think it's a mess. I think it was an unnecessary mess. I'm sorry to see it happen. I hope I'm wrong. I don't think the public was really asked, and that was the biggest problem in Hoboken. The public's never asked what they want. I feel that the council and the mayor did what they wanted to do. And everyone in that council voted yes for all of these projects, just so you know. I would also agree with Anthony Romano that we need to have parking garages from the north to the south. Am I done? Thank you. I'm sorry. I would love to go on.
So I'm actually proud to have Stevens Institute of Technology here in Hoboken. I actually support our engineers, and our engineers are the ones that design all these projects that the other candidates are bashing right now. So I stand with our engineers on that end, on real solutions for people. So, and whenever somebody tells you, hey, let's build a parking lot, let's do all this, think about this. That increases our cost of living, our cost of housing, every time we build a parking lot instead of a housing unit. So this really trickles down to every part of our lives, our quality of life here in Hoboken. We have to focus on real solutions like a traffic-free option, a bus rapid transit system that has been proven to lower dependency on car. Doesn't mean you have to choose it. It means that you have an option. And that way, you're able to say whether or not you're going to take a car and might hit traffic, because there's no physical way to actually just have no traffic with everybody driving a car. So we have to have people who actually need to drive a car be able to, and then people who are able to take another option like bus rapid transit to be able to do it. And we can be innovators in New Jersey to do that. Now, this is not something that's invented. This is something that started in Curitiba in Brazil. It's something that they're starting to implement in New York. But they're doing it at a very slow pace. We don't have that, we have a bigger sense of urgency because Hoboken is unique. We're smaller. We are more dense. So we need to have those solutions done right now all the way and not just ease into it and also not backtrack as well. So we have to focus on real solutions, because one less person that drives a car because they chose to have a better option, that's one more chance to find a parking spot. That's one less person in front of you in traffic. Thank you.
Well, I think Ron raises some very good points, very fair points. We need to identify or incentivize alternative forms of transportation other than motor vehicles. That said, being a councilman is a part-time position. My day job requires me to drive a car to work every day, so I feel the real effects of traffic and congestion on a daily basis. And that way, I get it, so to speak, with respect to the need for cars in Hoboken and in New Jersey. We need to identify ways where we can manage all multimodal forms of transportation so that it works for the entire community. One thing we need to focus on, I would submit, is mass transit infrastructure. Right now, we are sorely underrepresented with respect to what we're getting in from the state with the 126 bus line. I'm the only candidate that has advocated to New Jersey Transit to expand bus service, not just on the Clinton and Willow paths and the Washington Street path, but also in western Hoboken. I sincerely believe that when it comes to Hoboken, the future looks west. And having a bus line that runs through Madison and Monroe is something that's needed for the residents in western Hoboken. We also got to think about the price of a ferry ride from New York to Hoboken and from Hoboken to New York. It's too expensive. It's cost prohibitive. It's unaffordable. It's $9.50 for a one-way ride in the north. Right now, we are thinking actively about ways to subsidize the cost of a ferry ride so that it's the same price as the cost of a subway ticket. They've done it in New York City with the out-of-borough ferries being the same price as a subway ticket, $2.75. There's no reason we should be advocating with our next governor, the Port Authority, to make it happen here in Hoboken as well.
You just want to clarify two things. One, I voted no for Washington Street, so not all, and I was the only council person who did. Also, it would be completely inappropriate for a council member to speak with a property owner, to negotiate with a property owner about their land. But as mayor, I will get in the room and negotiate with anyone. So negotiating with a property owner in the southwest part of town means that we can find another way to move people and cars in and out of Hoboken. I would be open to that. The number one complaint I hear door knocking is parking. We don't have enough spaces, confusing and inconsistent parking rules, no parking signs that are put up in the wrong locations for days upon, days upon days. What we need to do is have loading zones on every block. There's one corner on each block that doesn't affect the visibility of a driver or a pedestrian, and that should be a loading zone, and that should also be a spot for people to park overnight. Nothing's more frustrating than pulling up, trying to unload your car, and as you're doing it, receiving a parking ticket. Hoboken residents deserve loading zones on their blocks. Meter rates, they need to be changed to progressive rates. The whole point of this whole metering system throughout Hoboken was just to do that, and it has not been done. If you're parking, we need to study if you're parking on Washington Street, how long people are staying there, and base the pricing off of that. Simply saying it's cut off at 2 hours is unreasonable and really, really hurts the small businesses in our town. I'm completely supportive of more public transportation. The HOP is not just for seniors. There's lots of HOP routes throughout town, but there always can be more. Students take the HOP to and from school. Shared parking, additional parking at night in commercial buildings is an option. We need to require that developers fund and provide municipal parking garages. But we need to do all of this holistically. It's easy to say one thing than the other. Everything has to be looked at holistically.
I'm very proud to have sponsored the Southwest Traffic Study that, after years of neglect, reopened Jackson Street to 2 lanes of traffic, added 3 new lights to the southwest, greatly reducing the traffic, and brought pedestrian safety along Newark. Although I'm appreciative of Councilman Bala finally talking about transportation options into the city, I am the only elected representative that commutes every day to the city, so where has that advocacy been before? I'm proud to be running with Andrew Pistado, who developed a parking app called The Parking Dude, which has long attempted to bring adaptive pricing and availability of spots as well as street closures to the population. But we've used $6.5 million worth of backdoor taxes in these parking regulations to fund our deficiencies in our budget.
Kind of ironic, talking about some council members talking about providing more spaces or loading zones, because this council took away spaces. The lengthening, this administration, the lengthening of the corner prohibited areas to ridiculous lengths. The idea of now creating zones where you can't park during the daytime is only frustrating people by the bulb outs being put in that also took away parking spaces. So, and also with regards to, I agree with Councilman Bala, I also supported the 126 bus service and requested from the light rail, the lights be repositioned, retimed rather. Thank you.
No, I totally agree with Romano. Everything you just said I agree with. Well, I want to say, Bala, your 126 increase is absolutely necessary. I know everyone's taking the 126 and standing in lines. Maybe jump. Have one jump ahead or 2 of them jump ahead so that there isn't a line that's picking up the same amount. I would also say to Jen, I really like your, and I've said it too, I really like Jen's idea of the commercial zoning. There needs to be commercial parking for all of commercial business owners like myself. I would remove the new parking meters completely. Those new parking meters are a disgrace.
Yeah, so I agree with loading zones, pick-up and drop-off zones, if they are in the middle of the block, not in the corners, because the corners are dangerous, and that's the reason why they're prohibited. I think that we talk too much about parking and traffic, but not enough about the lives that are lost because of pedestrian safety issues. Like William Rivera, that he got fatally hit by a car on Observer Highway in Bloomfield. So when we talk about, expanding and having 2 lanes, we have to be very serious about the lives that are at stake whenever we make those expansions on our streets.
I think this has been a great discussion about parking, and I just want to thank my colleagues for offering their input and ideas. A lot of good suggestions have been made, and I think part of the process is listening to best practices, and as mayor, I hope to implement them.
Commercial development would actually help with this rather than more residential development. With commercial development, we would have the reverse commute, as the residents of Hoboken potentially have people that live in Hoboken and work in Hoboken. So that's another, moving forward and thinking holistically about Hoboken and its development, we need to think about what kind of development Hoboken needs.